Welcome back. We are glad you are still keeping us company here on Good Morning Kenya. In case you're just joining us, karibu tena sana. My name is Jain Wambui, and we want to move on to our family conversation for today. And this one is rather sensitive, and we welcome you to share with us your thoughts and your experiences as well. Today we want to focus on parenting and the relationship that it has when it comes to family estrangement. Many a times we walk around in our casual conversations with our social gatherings, and almost always somebody will point out how dysfunctional their family is, a term that we just throw around without really understanding the heaviness and the burden that it comes with. That is what we want to talk about today, and to help us better understand, if you're going through this journey when it comes to estrangement with your family, how can you bridge that gap should you choose to do so? To help us with this conversation, we have two guests with us in studio this morning. I'll start with the only gentleman with us on set today. We have Pastor Peter Mutunga, who will be, as per this discussion, Pastor. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Jain.
Absolutely. And also to my immediate right, she is Anastacia Kihwa, who is a family therapist. Thank you, Anastacia, for making time to be with us.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And remember, once again, our communication platforms are up and running. Use the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter if you have any questions, comments, or in case you're just seeking clarifications in regards to this discussion. Official station handle is at KBC Channel 1, and do remember to tag me. My handle is at Jain Wambui across all the social media platforms. Now, let's start with basic definitions. You know, when we talk about estrangement, yes. I don't know, let me start with you, Anastacia. You know, just basing on your psychological background, how would you describe it?
Thank you very much, Wambui. Family estrangement is whereby family members lose contact. It can be the father, mother, and children. It can be father and children, or it can be with some parts of the relatives. That is where we find their sibling rivalries, whereby some kind of a group, they are cut off. I mean, they are separated from the others. It's simply losing contact with each other in the family setup. And family being a system, when you lose touch, there is no communication, especially. And the more you lose touch, the more the gap starts widening. And therefore, it is called family estrangement.
So the degree
you may be together in the family, we can be physically living together in the same compound, in the same house, but there is that lack of contact. We are not talking. Yes, you can see people getting out from the same house, but there is no communication, there is no that attachment. And it's also called emotional abuse, because we are not feeling, I mean, there is not, I can't feel you. You're there, and sometimes they say out of convenience, and you're just surviving within the same adult, same roof. Others, when they grow up, because of the pain and the struggles that they have been having in the family, they decide to keep off. Like I may be coming from a very violent family, whereby I was born and brought up in an authoritarian family, whereby it's the words of the parent against my word. So when I grow up, the adult children, when they grow up, they just want to keep off. And to them, they feel it's a space. Finally, I'm liberated.
Now, we'll be coming to that in a bit, but let me come to you, Pastor. You know, looking at modern day parenting and the old school way of parenting, how would you characterize these two against each other, in turn leading to estrangement?
The modern one and the old school. Thank you so much, Jain. I would like first also to comment something on what Anna said about estrangement.
Go ahead.
And first elaborate it more and say that estrangement is not something beginning today. It's something that has begun way back. Now, from a theological point of view, way back in the Garden of Eden, when we had before good relationship, between man and God, man and man, of course, man and creation. But then after the fall, we have estrangement coming immediately. Taking
was part of the consequences.
Part of the consequences. Actually, the master consequences. And there we have man getting away from God, man being a stretch between man, and even man and creation. So it's something that has begun way back. Now, what we have today is an extension of this estrangement and the impact of it in families today, as Anna said, especially what we're having in the families today. Our behavior or our character or Jain, we are wired from a different history, okay? The parents of today are wired from a different, very different background compared to what the current generation is facing today. Because in our time and in the last times, we used to have parents and children of those times be helped to understand that they should be back home early. They should be able in the rural areas collect firewood, do all that. That is not the generation of today. Those children are the parents today, okay? So now we are having parents who are from the old school raising children in the generation that we have today that are being raised up in a completely different worldview.
Yes.
So their parents would want to see their children responding the way they used to respond, okay? They would want to raise them the way they were raised. The children in this generation, they are actually having their different world. They would want to see their parents acting the way they think that this is the way parents should act in this generation. And therefore, out of that, we already have estrangement because everybody will have his own world in one house, in one family, but very different views, and therefore that would create more separation and more distance.
Okay. Now, I like that perspective that you've brought in, and that brings in the whole parenting styles conversation into at this particular point. Looking at this millennial generation, because they're between the baby bloomers and the Generation Z, they're coming from a time when the parenting style they experienced is different from what their next generation is expecting of them. Could this be one of the reasons as to why this particular group, the millennials, also are in a state of confusion when it comes to how to parent?
That's very important, Wambui, because we are in a time whereby we need to transition. Honestly, we need to transition from the modern to the old to the modern. However, we don't have to lose the values. Every family has a value system, and that is what makes a family. But sometimes you find that the modern world have their own value system, and where estrangement comes from is whereby there are differences in terms of value system. I have my own values that I want my children to follow. I don't communicate to them as they grow up, so they are forming their own perspective of their own value system, yet I am not bringing a common ground. Even as we transition from the old to the new, there is nothing new under the sun. So as we transition, we need to build a common ground, and every family has its own value system, because the family is a system. We have to look as a family as a whole. We cannot be apart. However, we need to keep on communicating to our children even as they are growing up, because there are moral values, there are social values, there are political values. Today, I cannot just go telling my adult children to go and vote for somebody that I'm inclined to, because they have their own preference. I cannot, being a pastor, most of us associate pastor, being a pastor, if my child feels that, Daddy, Mom, this is how I feel, I don't want to follow your denomination, could you allow me to join another one? And there are those religious indifferences. We are living in the world whereby people want to have freedom in terms of sexuality.
Yes.
Unfortunately, some want to join different kind of a set group. However, in a family, so that not to get to such a point, like you've talked of parenting, we have 4 types of parenting. We have the authoritarian type. It's my word against your word. So it's what my dad say, it's what mom says, I'm not supposed to be heard.
And that is what this generation, the millennial generation, is from.
Yes.
Given our parents were mostly in that category.
You're not supposed
My way
to
or
be
the
heard.
highway.
Yes, you're not supposed to be heard. The children of today, I have to sit with you. Not even sitting. It is, you have said it, yes. I may not have to follow that. but you have said it. It's okay. You have said it. That's your way. So it comes a time they feel like I'm continuing. And one time they feel I want to free from this space. I need my own space. And they go completely. They estrange. We also have the authoritative. The authoritative, they have that democracy. Let's talk. Let's argue. Let's settle this dispute.
Yes.
And we also have the neglectful. They have, I mean, we are living in a world whereby the economic stress is there, and we understand. However, some decides to just neglect because of their lifestyle and anything.
Yes.
But some, it's not out of choice. However, it's also picked by the children. And we also have the ones that is the freestyle. The freestyle is you can do whatever you want. If it's the remote, you can control the remote in the house.
Yes.
You can do whatever you want. And each of them, apart from authoritative, the authoritarian, the neglectful, and the freestyle, they have their own flaws in the family. And the backlash is when they grow up. When they are teenagers. That is where consequences. You have found that whenever a teenager has a voice, they want to pronounce it, and they want their voice to be heard. The adult children, they want their voice to be heard. And because of those differences, and we also have trauma in the family. As the children were growing up, the traumatic experience that we went through can also cause estrangement. However, we say that even domestic violence, separation, as you separate the wife and the husband, as you separate, it's very important to also communicate to your children that you are separating, because where are the children coming in? They feel confused and they feel lost and they estrange themselves. I want to follow dad, I want to follow mom, but you have decided that I'm separated from mom, therefore I'll never face mom. I'm separated from my dad, what does that mean to them? So when they grow up, they have already formed a perception. When I grow up and get my own lights, I will cut off from this family.
All right. So there's a direct link when it comes to parenting and eventually estrangement within the family, and especially when children grow up. Now, I want us to look at some of these causes, and you have touched on a few of them, but let's start with marriages. Now, and this is now when you have grown up or you're watching your parents. We find some families breaking apart because of the choice of partner that one may choose to go by. Why is this such a big deal that can actually lead to estrangement? Let me hear from you, Pastor.
The issue of separation in marriage.
The choice of partner that you choose to marry.
Yes. We really, Jain, have really a big problem in matters of partnership in marriage. And one of the biggest problems that we have that has caused this matter is the understanding to marriage or family as an institution. Yeah, people come in,
yes, and
just choose a partner. You know, I think you look good, I can marry you, I'll stay with you.
You're my tribe.
You know, you see, and you know, and then today, you know, it's my choice.
Yes.
So if that is your decision, you pick the decision, you do not know your partner very well. So after a short while, there are issues. You already have 1 or 2 kids. Issues begin. And now you begin to say, I'm a pastor, so I see them coming to my office and telling me, this is not the person I married, this is not the person I knew. You know, why? Because they never took their time even to understand their partners, to understand their spouses, to understand who is this person actually I'm coming. And very important, what is this institution I am coming in? How does it work? What happens? Failure of that understanding, Jain, brings these people together here, producing children, 1 or 2 or 3, without even the knowledge of how they're going to raise them up. In fact, when they begin differing, some of them, they even differ before the children, okay? They differ before the kids. And of course, they end up parting ways, okay? The most affected is the kids when it comes to issues of parting ways. Some of them are fixated in their young age because of what they have seen with their parents and all that.
Yeah.
And therefore, the estrangement begins, okay? And it becomes too hard for the kids to appreciate possibly one of the parents. They would possibly appreciate one parent who went with them, but the other parent, possibly the men. As men, we are the ones with the problem when it comes to us because we are the ones left, okay? So you find this one man, this kid, he has not grown with a male figure, but he saw a male figure at one point. Okay, he is now growing without a male figure. He could be having some memories that are not even good about the male figure, because possibly he saw how his father had beat, his mother and all that, and therefore he may not even want to appreciate that matter or that fact at all. Again, he may also have seen how his own mother has treated their father. And they are still staying with the mother. The father is away, but he still has the memories. Okay, so at one point he's not appreciative to what the mother at one point did, and therefore this creates a more gap and a more gap. Now, the mother who is remaining with the kids, or even the father who is remaining with the kids, they fail because of the lack of the understanding. They fail to now understand this generation they are raising, whether they could be undergoing, issues that needs attention. They think, my mtoto wangu ni mzuri, so they're going to school, they are paying for them, there's no problem, and they're still coming up, he's growing 10 years, 20 years, he's doing very well. But you see, as Anne said, now it reaches a time when that generation now begin to realize, you see, I learned something. And one thing with this generation is very funny. They don't learn from our theory, what we are telling them, go to Sunday school, go to school, do this. That is, they will do. They will cooperate because they are kids. They will come to a time now, because apart from what you were telling them, they were seeing you. They learn more experimental, They were seeing you, what you were doing. Some of the parents are very good. I'm talking from a perspective of a pastor. They even come, drop their kids, in the church and go away. But they tell them, go to church or go to school. They themselves, whatever they do, some of the things they do are really contributing to moral decay in the community. So this kid, when he has grown, he picks what he experimentally saw. So he will not go with what you told him, do this, do that. He changes. He stops issues of education. If you were a drug addict, then he also follows you. If you were violent, beating and fighting with each other, he goes the same way. He has now developed what he has seen experimentally, not what you were telling him. So the failure of understanding into the family as a system is really a challenge. The failure to understand our family as an institution and exactly what entails in it has really meant so many and brought a lot of estrangement.
And this all started just from the marriage.
I tell you.
My goodness. Now, let me come to you, Doc, and look at a rather sensitive matter. And this is more of a modern day problem, and this has to do with sexuality. We're living in a time where the younger generation is expressing themselves in any way possible to choose what they choose to choose for themselves when it comes to their sexuality. And consequently, we have seen many individuals being excommunicated or estranged from their family, or even just kicked out as a whole, and even lost the family name just because of their sexuality. How can this matter, if there's a way that it can be handled to sort of bridge a gap that might not lead to estrangement as a whole?
As we have been talking, it has to start from the background, because if we don't build a background that people can step on, we build stones, and that is the foundation, and that has to be done in the family system, whereby this is the foundation that we have in. Because as Pastor Peter has said, if we don't build a foundation where our children can stand on, again we take the problem outside to the world. It is called a transgenerational problem. It's a failure in the generation, because if I never brought up my children in the right manner within my family system, if they go meet another dysfunctional family, and they meet together, we are again multiplying the problem. And therefore, again, it narrows down to the same. And asking ourselves, when my daughter comes to me and tells me, Mom, I'm a lesbian, I want to get married to a lesbian. Daddy, or my son comes to me and tells me, Dad, I'm a lesbian, or Mom, I'm a homosexual. What comes to your mind? With all your values. However, we have the children who are called the prodigals. And those ones, they just choose their way. They choose their path and they say, I know I've been born and brought up in a family whereby there were values and the system was okay, but I've decided to choose my own path. That one we don't blame the parent. Because sometimes we may brain shift the blame to the parents, and they are not party to that. There are people who just decide because of we are in the global village. Yeah. They are picking things from the social media. They have their own social idols in the community, in the social media, and they decide to follow that path. If you've done your part as a parent, it's okay. You just leave them. However, it's very good because we are talking about reconciling them. It is good to build a common ground whereby you have decided to go this way, you have decided to go this way. This is my way. Let's come and settle scores. At some change, they decide, okay, I want to follow the values of my parents. Because some of them, it's because it's the wayward world. It's a weird world whereby, where do I go? That confusion, where do I go? This is what the family is saying. Yeah. And some have issues with personalities. They are really not able to communicate themselves. They are not able to express themselves. And what do I say? In the family, let there be continuous dialogue. I never think that the children are small. Let there be continuous dialogue and give them a listening ear. Be emphatically present as they grow up. Every stage requires a parent to walk and work with them. So that if my child who is in CBC, if I pick something that is not okay, I'm able to correct them at that stage. However, if we wait to correct them at a later stage, it may escalate and you lose touch. And you also lose, you're not able to correct them at certain stage.
All right. Now, let me come to you, Pastor.
Yes.
Estrangement is not always doom and gloom. So, is it okay to be estranged from your family or some members of your family if you are estranged and happy?
You see, Jain, we are human beings, and human beings are social. We are created social, okay? We are not islands, so you would not want to be alone. And again, I would not want to advocate for estrangement in the family. Somebody will feel, I want a space, I want to live alone. Somebody of a age of 20, 22, they are staying in the same family, in the same house with their parents. They say, I need a space, please. I just need my time, okay? I need my decision. This was my decision. In all ways, they always try to justify their decision to live that way, okay? But actually, as I said before, this is an extension of the impact of the fall of mankind. And the Bible helps us to try to come to each other, unite with your family. And if the parent is too far from the kid, because mostly, it lies mostly and most of the time with the parent, who is really responsible of bringing up the kids and all that. There comes a time when the parent has to realize, I think something have gone too wrong, and I need to find a way still to come to the same kids. Listen to them, dialogue, as Anna said, dialogue with them, talk to them, and actually, if possible, because that's also possible, try to see where the rain began beating us.
All right.
Okay, so from there, when you have evaluated yourself, you are able to get some solutions, okay, to begin a way of reconciliation, a way of communication, and a way that is bringing us towards the unity back again.
All right. Same question comes to you, Doc. We are almost out of time. Estranged and happy, either from the whole family or some members of the family. What are your thoughts on it?
I can say sometimes there are people who are estranged and happy. Why? Because they have always been under lock and key. It's caged. You didn't have the freedom. You didn't choose not to have a freedom, but the parents decided you never have your freedom because they thought you are like an assist parent. An assist parent it's manipulative. It's my way against your way, and they have been locked under key and lock. However, as Pastor Peter has said, we don't encourage, but sometimes people want to free up to get space, and when we free up to get space, there is that. Then you can now come to a point whereby you can come together. Sometimes it's not possible, and that is why we need to seek counsel from like family therapists, from mediators who need to bring you now together, because there is need of awareness. And that awareness needs to be two parties. Two parties under conflict, you cannot just say that you want to bring them together in one day. So there is that. I pick Wambui, I pick pastor, maybe let's for example he's your dad and you're the daughter, and you have estranged and you've decided to free up. So there needs to be somebody to come in between to bring you together. How do I come in between as a family therapist? I need to make you understand. I need to listen to your point of view, because sometimes I may feel, sometimes they feel the way my mom was talking, that is the same way you want to treat me, yet you want us to reconcile. Yet now I have my own space, I can pay my own rent, I can also buy my own food. Therefore, there is that common ground. And sometimes we may not have to agree, but we can join up together to say it is true. Especially I like the forgiveness part. It is good to join up together to bring up reconciliation through forgiveness, because some people, they have already built a wall. There is a wall that have been built, and both parties have built something we call defense mechanism. You will talk to your dad, and after talking, you feel that you have your own light, and he feels he is also a father. He needs to intrude your privacy. However, I need to talk to the parents and tell them this: you don't have to intrude to your children's privacy, but you can dialogue, come to a common ground whereby you may disagree, but disagree respectfully. Because you don't have to agree, because honestly, if my son has decided to join homosexuality and I am not for that, we may not, and he's telling me to come and go to their wedding, and my value system is against that, honestly, I will never go. I will never agree. If my daughter has decided to join lesbianism and she's inviting me to go and join their wedding, I may not be able to there. But I tell them, you're my daughter, but because you have chosen that path, I still remain your mother. Just go. But no, these are my values. That is, we have disagreed, but in a respectful manner. I will not disown you as my daughter, though it is paining. But what I found very good, it is bringing a reconciliation through forgiveness. It is good to visit your childhood. What did I do? Sometimes we repent, even without having not sinned. So let them know this is what was happening. And I have dealt with young children, especially teenagers. They are always asking, why is my dad not in my in? And I know that my dad is alive. And some parents have gone to an extent of lying to their children that your dad is dead. Yet the aunties or the family, the society knows that the dad is alive, and they are asking. You may think you're doing very well as a mother, you're paying rent and doing all those, but it's not working for her. She wants to know the dad because they want an identity. Therefore, they get estranged, and that is why there is a tug of war. Let them know that this is your dad. We separated because of that. It's not you who made us to separate, because they pick beef. When they are beefed up, they are building a wall against you. They are saying, you continue, mom, continue paying school fees, continue buying food, continue doing everything. But there is something that I have kept against you. Where is my dad? Because other children have their dads.
Now, as we close this conversation, I think we'll need to have a second sitting to just conclude this discussion. We have Musa, who is asking, how do you deal with generational feuds that you have nothing to do with?
when you talk of generational field, it's like the way we have said.
Inherited problems.
Yes.
From your grandparents to your parents. Now even you're told, how watuongeangi now kwa sababu hii na hii, so pia wewe usionge now. Very briefly.
We do something we call cognitive behavior therapy.
Okay.
Bring to the awareness that it is true this family is against this family, or we are against one another because of this. You bring something we call cognitive behavior therapy. How do we use it? We use it by making each party realize that this is what happens. You bring it on the table, you deal with it, and bring a closure.
Okay. Very briefly, Pastor, what would you advise someone like this who's dealing with generational feuds that they didn't even know existed?
Yeah, thank you, Jain. One, you will not go silent. Yeah, you not go silent, because there has to be something done. You would not want to extend that history of we don't talk to this one, we've grown enmity or through enemies. There has to be a way out. One, as I say, realization. There has to be a point of realizing that we can't continue this way, because it has its own impact, it has its own consequences, and therefore there has to be a way to sort it out and begin your generation from where you are.
All right.
Thank you.
So don't be quiet about
ties.
it.
Yes.
Cutting ties.
Yes, cutting ties actually.
Because we don't want another generation to breed from the toxic one.
Yes.
You cut those ties and say, we are beginning afresh.
Okay. Because you see, Jain, the reason why I'm saying so is that we say you may not change your ancestors, okay, but you can change your generation.
So and you can also change yourself.
Yeah, and you can change yourself.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
And you can change your family.
We have to take this discussion and have a part two. But due to the constraint of time, let's just pause at that particular point. Again, this is something that is very deeply rooted when it comes to estrangement. Every family you can trust, there is some sense of dysfunctionality, but we use that term very loosely. So we hope to have you guys again to continue with this discussion. But for now, let's pause there. We have been speaking with Anastacia Kihwa. She is a family therapist, as well as Peter Mutunga, who is a pastor and counselor, but a pastor for the purposes of this discussion. Thank you very much, lady and gent, for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being part of Good Morning Kenya. Be sure to join us again tomorrow for another beautiful edition of Good Morning Kenya. My name is Jain Wambui. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing and have a lovely day.